They backed her against the rusted shipping container, laughing, right up until the moment her eyes changed. In that split second, everything shifted. The woman they had called, worth nothing, wasn't afraid. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't pleading. She was calculating. And that was the first sign they were already too late. Maya Trent had always been the quiet one on the docks of Port Sterling. Small frame, calm voice, and a patience that made her blend into crowds like a shadow. She hauled nets at dawn, cleaned fish through the afternoon, and walked home in silence. To most, she looked like a woman beaten down by life, tired, alone, and unimportant. But no one there knew her history. No one knew the name that once carried weight across oceans. No one knew she had walked away from the Navy SEALs with a service record so classified even her closest teammates hadn't been allowed to read it. She thought she'd left that world for good. She was wrong. The trouble started with a gang that called themselves the Breakers, local toughs who ran small operations from the shadows. To them, Maya was the perfect target. Quiet, isolated, never fought back when they shoved her in passing. They took her calm for weakness. It was a fatal mistake. Their leader, Darren Kroll, was a broad man with a tattoo creeping up his neck and a voice full of venom. He'd been watching Maya for weeks, trying to figure out why she never reacted, never flinched. Bullies hated silence. They needed to feel power. And Maya didn't give him any. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the cranes and the ocean turned copper red, the Breakers cornered her behind Warehouse 19. "You think you're better than us?" Darren hissed, stepping close. "Walking around like you don't see anybody. Like you're too good to speak." Maya's gaze rested on the ground. Calm, steady. Another man jeered, "She ain't better than anybody. Girl's worth nothing. Nothing. Worth nothing." She'd heard those words before. From enemies. From rivals. From commanders who underestimated her right before she saved them. Still she said nothing. Darren slammed his hand against the metal container beside her head. "Look at me." Maya slowly raised her eyes. And for the first time, he saw it. That cold, emotionless stillness. Not fear. Training. Maya's mind shifted into a mode she hadn't touched in 3 years, not since the night she walked away after losing her closest teammate, El Ramirez, to an operation that had gone wrong. Maya had blamed herself. She'd sworn never to be in a position to hurt or protect again. But now, with these men closing in, something came alive in her again. Not rage, purpose. "Leave," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the air like a blade. The men burst into laughter. "She talks." One mocked. "Or tries to," another sneered. Darren smirked. "And what are you gonna do if we don't?" Maya exhaled. "Don't make me answer that." They moved first. Mistake number 2. The first man grabbed her arm. In one fluid motion, Maya twisted, dropped her weight, and sent him crashing to the ground. A sharp strike to his shoulder dislocated it instantly. He screamed. The others froze. "What the?" The second lunged. She stepped aside, hooked his ankle, and swept his legs. He face planted on concrete before he even understood he was falling. Darren stared, stunned. Maya didn't run. She didn't shout. She simply stepped forward, slowly, like someone walking into a familiar rhythm. "You don't want this," she said. Darren panicked, pulling a knife. She didn't even blink. He swung. She moved with ghost-like precision, redirecting his arm, locking his wrist, and slamming him against the container. The knife clattered out of his hand. She pinned him with one forearm. "Our greatest enemy wasn't the battlefield," she said quietly. "It was ignorance. Men who thought quiet meant weak. That stillness meant fear." Her voice dropped lower. "You made the same mistake." "Who are you?" he breathed, shaking. But it wasn't Darren asking. It was the terrified child behind the rage, suddenly aware he'd picked a fight with a storm. Maya hesitated. 3 years she had buried her past. 3 years she had tried to become invisible. For peace. But maybe silence wasn't the way to honor her. Maybe using what she'd been taught, to protect, not destroy, was the way. She released Darren and stepped back. "My name is Maya Trent," she said. "But once, they called me something else." Darren swallowed. "What?" She turned away. "SEALs called me Ghost Tide." The gang didn't follow her. They didn't speak. They didn't move. They'd learned. The next morning, Maya walked into the police station, reporting everything without hesitation. Not for revenge, but to ensure the Breakers couldn't harm anyone else. When officers asked how she'd subdued 4 armed men alone, she simply said, "Training. The quiet kind." Word spread through the docks. The woman they'd dismissed, overlooked, whispered about as worth nothing, had saved half the harbor from a gang that had terrorized it for months. People began watching her with new respect. But Maya didn't bask in it. That night, she walked to the pier, stared at the ocean, and thanked Elle silently. Maybe I'm not done yet, she whispered. The wind carried her words away.